Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Gold Star Travel Crew team meeting every Wednesday at this time. We hope that you'll always join us on this day. We love to get together and do some training on both IntelliTravel and within marketing as well. And tonight we have a special treat. We're going to do a series of, or we are doing a series of Around the World. And so, some of our agents that have had some special trips are coming on and they're just sharing with us about their trip and, telling you some little secrets about it and where to book it, what vendors to use, those kind of things, and sharing some pictures. And tonight we're going to be talking to one of our directors out in California and her husband, Steve and Jamie Torres. Jamie has been in the business. How long have you been in the business, Jamie? I'm sorry.
I have been in business for 4 years.
4 years. Okay. And she has become a Pinnacle agent, which means she's in the top 100 agents of IntelliTravel out of over 97,000 active agents. So she's booked a lot of travel and she's very experienced. She is also one-star Planet Marketing Director, and that means she has at least 100 people around the country, possibly around the world, that she's helping own their own travel agency. And she is with her husband, Steve, who is a professional photographer. They both work professionally in photographer. They have many, many talents, and they're absolutely great at all of them. I know Jamie has done hair and makeup and photography, and I can speak with experience. She did my hair for Black Tie Affair, and it's never looked better. So she just excels at everything that she does. And so I want to introduce them. And I had the pleasure of meeting Steve at the conference this year. So I felt like I knew him. You know how I knew Jamie. I talked to Jamie. I see posts, about Steve. And I'm like, Steve, we've met before, haven't we? And he says, I don't think we have. So anyway, it was good to meet him. And I want to turn it over to Steve and Jamie now.
Thank you so much, Joy. Well, we really appreciate that nice introduction, especially from somebody who I really look up to in this business, two-star director, Joy Simpson. Thank you so much for introducing us today. We're so happy to be here. And we are trying to be in Paris, France right now, which is where we're going to share with you tonight. But my background, my phony background makes me disappear every once in a while. So just bear with me if I turn into a ghost. But we're super excited to be here. And, when we got asked if we wanted to participate in this Around the World series, and Cindy Bergerman asked me which destination I would like to share, because I do book a lot of international travel, I said France. And the reason I said France is because before I met my husband, I had never traveled internationally. And when I met him, he told me that he had lived in France and he lived there for 3 years. And I just couldn't even fathom that. For my whole life since I was a little girl, I dreamed of going to France. And so the day that he proposed to me, he actually proposed to me on top of the Eiffel Tower in Paris, Las Vegas. And so he said, we will not get married until we can afford to go to France for our honeymoon. And so we waited 7 years. So that's a true story. And it was because we wanted to make sure that we had enough money to do it right. We had 5 children combined, and we wanted to make sure that, they had a good home, and we had all of our ducks in a row before we decided to have our wedding. We decided we wanted to have a large wedding and then go to France for our honeymoon. And so we were able to realize that dream. And it's funny that we're sharing this because we actually went to France a while ago. It's been a while. And we went to Europe last year. We traveled to Europe a lot, but we have not been back to Paris since our honeymoon. But we just love it so much. And, Steve has a lot of knowledge of France. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will get started and take you on this journey with us. All right. Okay, so I gave you a little background, and so I'm going to go ahead and let Steve take over from here.
Oh, geez. Okay. Thank you. Well, thank you, Joy. I appreciate the introduction. And yes, I did feel like I had met you before, but never in person. So that was a great event that I attended for the first time. And hopefully I'll get to meet more of you the next time we all get together. Anyway, Bonsoir, mes amis. Comment allez-vous? Je suis ça va. So basically, I said, good evening, everybody, my friends. And how are you doing? And I'm doing okay. So as Jamie mentioned, originally she said we're going to do a presentation on France. And I said, well, France is a big country and there's a lot to do in France. So I said, why don't we just narrow it down to what I know most, which is Paris, because as Jenny said, I lived there during my high school years. My father was with the State Department, and we were stationed there. And of course, I took Jamie there on her honeymoon. But the most important thing is that Paris is timeless. Everything that I had done, it had been 27 years since the last time I was in Paris. So it was just fantastic because when we went back, everything was the same. I could take her down the same streets, eat at the same cafes that I ate before, and see the great sights because nothing changes in hundreds and hundreds of years there in Paris. So just to give you an overview of Paris, let's do a little bit of History 101. So basically in the top picture, you'll see that in 259 BC, the Celtics settled on what they call the Ile de Cité, which is in the upper picture there. And that little island still exists. Of course, it's now surrounded by modern day Paris, but everything there is pretty much the same. And then in 52 BC, the Romans conquered. They built up their Roman Empire. And as time went by, we had the king and the monarchs, and because they were a little bit over the top, the people did not like it. So in 1789, there was the Great French Revolution. It took a few years after the revolution where Napoleon Bonaparte took over, and in 1804, that's when he had his Napoleon Empire. And as you see on the right-hand side, in 1889, the Eiffel Tower was built, and that was built for the first World's Fair. And then in the turn of the century, we had the World War II, and in 1944, Americans, British, and Canadians freed France from Nazi Germany. And today, in 2022. Paris is the #1 tourist destination, 44 million tourists in a year, and basically they have an income of $36 billion in tourism. Well, let's go to modern Paris. Modern Paris in France, of course, is part of the European Union, or as they say, the EU. They do use the euro currency. French is the official language. Then there's English, and then there's Spanish. Back when I lived there in the late 70s, no one spoke English. So I did have to, and I was forced to learn French. Catholicism is the main religion. There are 5 political parties. President Macron is the current French president, and he is part of the Conservative Party. They currently have a population of 11 million. And I just want to mention that one of the main things that I love about Paris is that their modes of transportation. They have trains, they have the metro system, which is the subway, as well as the bus system. There's car rentals, there's Ubers, there's taxis, there's bikes, and there's scooters. And the nice thing about France is that it's centrally located. It does border 7 major countries: Belgium, Luxembourg, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Monaco, Spain, and it's across from the English Channel of the United Kingdom. And all of these countries are accessible by car, train, and air.
And you should talk a little bit about the tunnel that goes from the UK.
Well, if you want to travel between the United Kingdom and France, there is an underground tunnel which is part of the train system. So you can take that. I believe it's a 2-hour commute.
And it goes under the English Channel. Crazy.
Yep.
All right. So how do you get there from the US? First of all, Paris has two main airports. So they have Charles de Gaulle, and Charles de Gaulle is 22 kilometers from Paris. And then they have Orly, and Orly is 14 kilometers from Paris. If you're traveling from the West Coast, plan on 11 hours of flying if you go nonstop. Or if you want, you can have a layover in New York and spend the night. You can do whatever you want on your way there. If you travel from the Midwest, you travel about almost 8 hours. That would be from maybe, say, Chicago. And the East Coast, it's a little bit more than 7 hours to get there. And the main modes of transportation to get to the hotels, which we will dive into a little bit more, would be the metro. They have a wonderful metro system there. The public transportation is amazing. They have shuttle buses that will take you from the airport to your hotels. You can, of course, hire private transfers for your clients. And they do have Uber and they have taxis. And we did do some research for this slide presentation, and we discovered that taxis are more affordable right now in Paris than Ubers are. All right, so let's talk about travel tips, things that you need to do to be prepared for your trip. So this was something that Steve and I spent a long time doing before we went. We did this before we went to Italy, before we went to France. We wanted to make sure that we were prepared. We did have, like I said, traveling to France was my first international travel. And there were a couple of things that we experienced and we learned from our mistakes. One of the things that we didn't realize was that every time we were going to the ATM, and we were withdrawing money, that we were getting charged foreign exchange rates. So our bank was charging us fees and the banks in Paris were charging us fees. And I did not know. And when we came home and I checked the bank account, a lot more money had come out than what we had planned for the honeymoon. And a lot of it was exchange fees. So we learned that number one, bring euros with you, go to your bank, exchange money, get your euros before you go. If you want to keep an eye on the market and find out, when the price drops on them and go buy some. We do personally budget about 100 euros a day. That's what we like to spend when we go. Of course, we bring our credit cards for backup. It's good to find, make sure that whatever credit card you're using when you go, that it doesn't charge a lot of high fees. When we went, it was years ago. Things were a little different with the banking system back then. So I think now you're pretty safe. You probably won't experience what we did with all those exchange rates, but just check with your bank. Make sure, when you're in a foreign country, how much are they charging your cards? That's good information to pass along to your clients as well. And then things that that also you need to be aware of. You've probably been hearing about the new visas that you're going to need for European travel. So that new program is the ETIAS. That's the European Travel Information and Authorization System. And that just got extended. It was supposed to come into play in 2024. It's actually not happening until 2025. And when it does happen, it's just going to be an electronic authorization system that you have to go and apply for. And just because you apply for it doesn't mean that you will be entered into the country. I mean, you will be unless they decide to detain you for some reason. So that's just a little disclaimer on the website. It is going to cost our clients around $7 for them to go and do that authorization, just so you're aware of that. You do need a passport to travel to France. Make sure that your clients' passports have an expiration date of 6 months past the last date that they will be on their vacation. We do recommend an international driver's permit. We did drive when we were there, and we're going to show you some of the places that we drove to. And it is not required for you to pick up the rental car. But if you were to get pulled over by the police in France for any reason, they are going to ask you for it. And if you don't have it, you will be fined. So it is good just to have it. And that's something that you can get from the Auto Club. And if you guys have questions while we're doing this, feel free to write them in the chat and we'll try to answer them afterwards. We recommend a cell phone with an international plan. So you can just call your cell phone company and ask them if you can add international calling or texting while you're there. One thing that we've discovered, because we like to take a lot of pictures like most people do on vacation, make sure that you've got, backup to charge your phones. You have to have voltage converters while you're there, because what you plug into there is different than what we have here. So you can buy those on Amazon. They're very accessible. So just buy one of those. I like to travel with an RDF purse and an RDF wallet. So that is what protects people from grabbing your credit card information. They sell wallets for guys too. So those are, when you're traveling to international locations, we always protect our information with RDF purses and wallets. If you've never considered doing that, consider it. I also travel with a bag that I bought from, it's a company called Travel On. It's TRAVELON, and it has a wire mesh inside of it. And so you can't slash it. So that's another thing. It's a crossbody bag, but they have all different kinds of styles. If you just look up that company or you look on Amazon for like theft proof, handbags, you'll find them there. We always travel with a money belt because we split up our euros. We put our money belts in each of our, we split them up between us, and we don't carry our cash in our wallets. We maybe put just a little bit that we need to get, taxis or whatever we need, but we don't put all the money in there. And then we do take a little crash course of the language of the country that we're going to. This is one thing I'm going to touch on really quickly. When I went with Steve, I did not bother to learn any French because I knew he spoke French and I didn't think I needed it. And for the most part, I got by, but we did have an experience where he was in the hotel room. I went to the chocolate shop downstairs to buy some chocolate to bring home to family members. And because I didn't speak any French, the girl in the chocolate shop was very rude to me, because I didn't even try, because I hadn't learned even an ounce, a little bit of it. And so I will just say, nowadays English is pretty prevalent there, but they like to see you try. So even if you just know a couple of words, or if you get a Google Translator app, I think that would be very, very helpful for a trip to France. And then a city map. Steve loves maps. So everywhere we go, we got to take a map. So that's all right. And let's talk about the best time to travel. So Paris does have 4 seasons. So the winter is cold. November through February, it's going to be cold. It may snow, like you see in that upper right-hand corner. It definitely will rain. The spring is going to be cool, but nice temperatures, sort of like it is, here. March through May, it's going to be rainy, but it'll be cooler, but it'll be, nice weather. The fall is our favorite time to go. We went in September and it was absolutely gorgeous. Most of our days looked like the photos that you see on the bottom. But we did have a couple of rainy days because we were getting there towards the end of September, beginning of October. So just kind of keep that in mind. Summer is hot. And you could probably talk about hot summers in France because you know more about it.
Keep in mind that most hotels they're modernized now, but a lot of the smaller hotels that you may recommend to some of your clients or that you may stay in may not have air conditioning, because it gets hot, but not a lot. So they never really did have air conditioning. You would basically just open up your windows and let the air, flow through. But I think they've modernized it a little bit more now. So the main thing to keep in mind is that, and this is for you need to know this, August is a month that most Europeans recognize as their vacation month. The French really, really do adhere by this. So in August, a lot of places shut down so that the French can go on vacation. The Europeans usually get 6 to 8 weeks vacation paid. That's the way their government works. So no matter what jobs they have, they usually get the 6 to 8 weeks. So they use that time to spend, with their families. So a lot of the restaurants, the small mom and pop shops, are closed. So keep that in mind, that wherever you go, they may be closed during the month of August.
Don't book your clients during August. All right, let's talk about seasonal festivities. So there is something there called I'm going to jack up these French words, I know, but I'm going to try. Nuit Blanche, and that's called White Night. And this happened while we were there. And we didn't even know it was a thing. It just happened. And we said, what is happening right now? And I'm going to go a little bit into the next slide. It was just the coolest thing ever. It's basically a night that Paris stays open all night long until the sun comes up. It was just such a great thing to experience. And we were so happy that it happened by accident. July 14th is Bastille Day. Bastille Day is like our 4th of July for the French. That's the French Independence Day. It's a huge celebration. That picture that you see in the lower right-hand corner is a photo of Bastille Day. You see the jets flying up in the air with those beautiful colors. It is a huge celebration. Noel. They have Paris Christmas markets. I experienced these when I went to Quebec City last year. coolest thing ever. They were so much fun. I got to experience that with some of my travel agent sisters that I hope you're on here tonight. We had a blast at those Christmas markets. It was just a great place to go shopping, buy some stuff for our families for the holidays, and get to also taste some of the local cuisines, the wines, chocolates, all kinds of cool things. All right, so I'm going to talk about White Night. So as I said, this happened by accident while we were there. And so as this is happening, we're like, what is going on? We walked out of our hotel. We were in the middle of this really cool parade. The what do you call it? The mayor of the town he looked like he was out of the Wizard of Oz. Like he was wearing this outrageous outfit. I felt like I was in some weird movie. And there was all these cool art installations that were all over Paris. And you get an idea of some of them right here. That's what this big green thing is on the bottom, that ring around the bridge. These are art installations. And so they basically celebrate art all night long. There's food trucks everywhere you could possibly imagine. When we went, the metro system was open all night long for free until the sun came up. So at 6 a.m. in the morning is when the free metro went away. I did do some research on it before this slideshow, and last year was the first year ever since they've been doing this, since 2002, they've been doing this. They did not leave the metro open all night. So the metro closes now at 2 a.m. or 1 or 2 a.m. is the normal time. And the only way to get around and see all these art installations and be a part of all these cultural celebrations and food celebrations and all the cool things that they let you do all night long during this celebration, you have to go on e-scooters and e-bikes. But there is just people. You see down on the right-hand corner, that art installation, that's people all around them. That's like so many people out in the middle of the night, and all the streets are just jam-packed. So much great food, wine. It was a blast. And that was our last night. And we had to be at the airport the following morning at 6 a.m. and we stayed up all night. And like I said, we just walked out of our hotel room. We had no idea. And it was a really great surprise. All right. So I'm going to let Steve talk about arrondissements.
Well, so, telling your clients, they're going to ask you, well, Paris is a big city. So where do we start? Well, what Jamie and I like to do, no matter what city we go into, we like to take the hop on, hop off bus because it sort of gives you the lay of the land. So when you take that, I don't know how many people of you experienced that, but usually it's like a 2 or 3 hour tour that goes to all the main sites. You can get off whenever you want. You can go and get lunch, get a beer, get a glass of wine, get back on the bus. Because the buses keep rotating around the city. So those are the best things that we like to recommend, is just, of course, just to get the lay of the land. But you have to understand that when people, your clients call you and say, where should we stay? You need to know a little bit of history of how Paris is laid out. Paris is based on what they call arrondissements. Arrondissements are districts. There's 20 different districts that were created in 1860 around the city of Paris. And the way that they're broken up is they start at 1 and they go in a clockwise direction all the way out to the furthest parts of Paris, and they end at, of course, the 20th arrondissement or district. Now, the River Seine, which is the main river, also divides Paris in half. And it's what they separate it by what they call the right and the left bank. So it's either the droit or the gauche bank. And different sites are on obviously different sides of the river. But for an example, if you say the first arrondissement, which is your oldest, they call it the Marais district. That's where you're going to find the Louvre, Notre Dame, the Ile-de-Cité that I mentioned earlier. If you went to the 5th arrondissement, it's what they consider the Latin Quarter. That's where the University of Sorbonne is, which is the largest university in France. It's where all the bookstores are. It's pretty bohemian. It's where most of the students live, and there's a lot of great ethnic restaurants there. Or you can go to the 16th arrondissement, which is the more affluent area. It's the Beverly Hills of Paris. It's where the embassies are located. It's where the large avenues are, which they call, one of them is Avenue Foch, where all the big retail marketing shops are at. That's that's basically the lay of the land. So when your clients ask you, where do we go, you may just want to ask them, what are you interested in? Are you interested in old Paris? Are you interested in modern Paris? Do you want where the history's at? Do you want to go to museums, etc.?
And if you look at the map of the arrondissements, like Steve said, you know, it starts in the middle with one and it goes all the way to the highest number on the outskirts, but it's like in a spiral. It almost looks like it's a snail shell. And the way that, but it goes in a clockwise direction. All right, we're going to talk about places to stay. So in Paris, there are a lot of wonderful accommodations. So there are high-end hotels, and you know, we're talking $1,000 to $3,000 a night. There are affordable hotels. There's apartments, beautiful apartments, amazing apartments like you've never seen in your life. Some with amazing views, some just in quaint neighborhoods. But there are so much to choose from. And there are river boats on the Seine River that are accommodations. They're bed and breakfast. They're adorable. And you know, those are things that we can find some of these. They're really cool. And I'll talk about places to book this stuff at. And then there's also the suburbs, the Marne de Val.
Marne de Val.
Marne de Val. That's by Euro Disney. We stayed there, and we also stayed in Paris. And so we're going to share both of those places with you. All right, so I'm going to talk about high-end clients. So Steve talked about arrondissements. This is something you may want to take note of. If you've got that bougie high-end client, you know they have the budget. They want to do, you know, they want to do Paris. Like they just get me in the best places. I want to do the best things. I want to eat the best food. I want the best shopping. You want to place these clients in the 8th arrondissement or the 16th arrondissement. The 8th arrondissement is the Élysées district. That's on the right bank. Both of these districts are on the right bank. That's going to have 5-star hotels, and that's going to be close to historic sites like the Arc de Triomphe. You're going to be closer to the Eiffel Tower. A lot of the main sites that people like to see are going to be located here. The 16th arrondissement is actually not too far from the 8th. Even though their numbers are far apart, they're not that far apart from each other. That's the Trocadero district. That is one of the most prestigious and affluent districts. That is going to be very, very high end. And if you want to take a screenshot on your phone of this or access this later, I did bring up some hotels that I looked up in the area. Now, the hotels that are on the top, all of those run between $1,000 to $3,000 a night, just to kind of give you an idea. The luxury penthouse that you see on the right-hand side, that was actually something, believe it or not, that I found on Expedia Tap. That ran about $1,000 a night. So you do have access to vacation rentals through Expedia Tap in Paris. I was also very surprised, even though I'm saying $1,000 to $3,000 a night, I know that's a high budget, but we were super surprised when we looked at like the mid-range to the affordable range for Paris. We were like, we need to go because it's actually very, very affordable right now for those mid-range clients. There's some great options. Even this Hilton hotel I put at the bottom, the Canopy by Hilton. Oh my gosh, amazing views. You can see the Eiffel Tower in the distance. It's got a rooftop lounge, and it was very affordable, even though it was in a very affluent area.
It was about 159 euros per night.
Yes, yeah, just amazing. So here's some of this budget-friendly stuff that I'm talking about. So this is mid-range or budget-friendly accommodations. Which arrondissement is best to stay in Paris for your first time or if you're on a budget? So what we recommend is the 18th district. That's Montmartre. Or the third, is it the third and the fourth?
Third and fourth, yeah.
Okay, the Les Marais district. And both of these have great restaurants, beautiful places to visit, and they're both relatively budget friendly. And they're still close to the action. And I pulled up, this is straight from Expedia Tap, you guys. I mean, that is so affordable. People think France or they think Paris and they think like, it's going to be way out of budget, but oh my gosh, I really need to go. So just to give you an idea of what that budget friendly mid-range client can find. Now, a lot of times when I book clients internationally, I do use companies like GoAway. I like GoAway to put together the entire itinerary for my client. But if you're one of those agents that likes to do all of this for your client, just know that there are some budget friendly options. All right. And again, this is straight from Expedia again. And here's some budget-friendly apartment rentals. And I give you some examples of what the apartments look like there. And I mean, look at this one on the right-hand side. It is adorable. That is the neighborhood that it's located in. Look at that little street. I mean, those buildings. I mean, it looks super safe to walk at night, and $200 a night. But these are amazing prices. And these would all be private apartments. And what is nice is you guys don't have to rely on Airbnb, but we do have vacation rentals available to us through our IntelliTravel site. We also have them, through Expedia, and we have a lot of vacation rental sites that vendors and suppliers that we work with that are preferred vendors and partners that we can book vacation rentals through. So there's a lot of them. If you just go look at the list of vendors that are available to you on the IntelliTravel site, and just go shopping through those, and you'll see that there are a lot that do include vacation rentals. All right, so when we went, this is where we went first. And when we traveled there, we did already like staying at Marriott's. We were already Marriott people at that time, and we had some Marriott points. And so we looked for a Marriott property, and we found this one. And this one is actually 37 kilometers from France. And we decided from Paris. Thank you. We decided we were going to spend 1 week here before we went traveling around, and then before we actually stayed in right in the heart of Paris. So I think this is an amazing option. When we got there, it looks exactly the same today as it did when we went. And we walked in and we said, oh my gosh, there is room for the 5 kids. We should have brought the 5 kids. And we're like, no, we're on our honeymoon. We're here having a good time. But we were feeling so guilty that we didn't bring them, because let me tell you, these apartments at this Marriott resort at it's the Village de Île-de-France. These apartments are huge, and that's the swimming pool there. It's like little.
It was like a condo.
Yeah, it was like a little condo. It was 2 stories. It was adorable. It had a huge bathtub. It was very clean. The grounds looked just like this. They were like it was almost like a little village. And if any of you have stayed here before, you know what I'm talking about. And we were able to take a shuttle bus from the airport, and that shuttle bus still exists to this day. I just looked it up today, and it's only 20 euros per person. And it's about an hour to get here. And it's so much easier than hiring a private transfer or getting on a train, because actually to take the train here, it was 4 train changes. And so you don't want to do that to your client. But if you can get your client there on 1 bus ride, go for it. Especially at this price. This is an unbelievable price. So
and isn't this hotel like very close to Euro Disney?
It's right next to Euro Disney.
It's like right across the street, I believe.
Yeah, it's right across from Euro Disney. So when we came out of, there's shuttle buses because it's like a huge village, right? So there's shuttle buses that you can take. And the shuttle buses, as soon as you come out of the community, Euro Disney is literally right there. And right next to Euro Disney is a metro stop. And if you take that metro stop, it'll take you straight to Paris. And it was about a 40-minute ride from there. And so that's what we did every day for a week. We took the metro from, if we wanted to go to Euro Disney, we could walk. It was
actually a train.
A train. Okay. Yeah. We could walk to Euro Disney from there, or we could take the train from the train stop there and go right into the heart of Paris. And do you remember which train that was?
It was the RER, they call it. I'm not sure what you'd have to look when you.
Okay, the RER. Okay, you guys. So yeah, this is a great alternative for people that maybe they don't have the budget to stay right in the heart of Paris, but I just showed you there's budget friendly stuff, right? But this is great for families because they are very spacious. The grounds are beautiful. You've got Euro Disney for those families. So this is a great property to sell. All right, and I just talked about Euro Disney, Disneyland Paris. There's 2 parks there, and so it's Walt Disney Studios Park and it's Disneyland Park. And when I was doing some research on this, I found out that the Walt Disney Studio Park is the lowest visited park in the world. So apparently it's empty, and so you can send your clients there and hope that they have a great time. But you do have a choice of 2 parks here. If any of you have ever dreamed of going to Disneyland in Paris, I did do some research trying to find out for us US agents how we sell Disneyland Paris. It's definitely accessible to our UK agents. So if you're a UK agent watching this, this is something that you're probably already selling or you can sell. I know my friend Claire Jackson sells a lot of Disney, and she was even like a Disney fairy godmother, which I thought was super cool. That's something that she achieved through this company. She was able to apply with Disney for that, and she's gotten a lot of great opportunities to travel to Disneyland all over the world through our Disney for Travel Agents program. But I did go on Disney for Travel Agents. I didn't see Disneyland Paris as an option. So if anybody does know how to book Disneyland Paris, if you're a US agent, and if you know if we're able to do that, if you're able to share that after or share it in the chat, I know that that's valuable information for me and also for other agents that are watching. All right, so I'm going to let Steve take over when we talk about French food.
French food. We all know about the French cuisine. Well, in Paris, there's different varieties of French restaurants that you could go to. You could go to French restaurants that are average $50 to $70 euros per person. Those are pretty much the high end. You could do the everyday cafe bistros, which are usually around $15 to 20 euros per person. Unmistakably, you're gonna pass by a pâtisserie, which is a pastry shop. You can always go in there and get yourselves delicious pastry of all type, and of course get your coffees at your cafes, your cappuccinos, your cafe au laits, etc. Paris is, it's known for its wine and its beer. It's pretty relatively inexpensive. Well, it's the same prices here in the United States, $5 to $12 per glass. When you do go, be aware that when you ask for water, they're going to ask you gas or no gas. So, of course, your gas is your carbonated. Your no gas is your still water. Still water is free. Your gas water, carbonated water, there's going to be a charge for it. One of the nice things is that there already is a 15% service fee included. You don't have to tip unless you really want to. And of course, the servers are very happy if you do. But remember, it's automatically included because unlike the United States, servers are paid a full wage. They get their paid holidays, and they do get their healthcare costs included in their salary. So tipping is okay. The popular French cuisine, maybe some of you who are already live in Europe, are familiar with this, but from the American side, one of the great delicacies is the escargot, which are snails. And I know it sounds yucky, but once you try them, because, Jamie didn't want to try them, but once she tried them, she was hooked. I think every night we went for dinner, she had to order her escargot. They're delicious. They're baked in a garlic buttery sauce. It's just amazing. You've got your quiche, which are your egg, sort of your egg omelets, which are very well known. Your French onion soup, which is undeniably delicious. Then you've got some exotic stuff. You have your steak tartare, which is raw hamburger meat that they basically prepare with raw eggs. They spice it up. They put a little garnishment on it, and they serve it to you. And that's a very, very popular lunchtime meal, steak tartare. Keep in mind that salads, as unlike in the United States, we eat a salad either before our meal or during our meal. With our meal or as a meal. The French typically will have a salad at the end of their meal. It's because of they have it as more of a digestive add-on to their meal. It helps with the digestion of the big meal. The main thing, if you were to go into a cafe or a bistro for just an average meal, the best thing to order would be steak and frites, which is your steak and your French fries. That's the biggest delicacy for the average French person. And also keep in mind that most of your French meals, your big meals, are going to be served with sauces. Sauces are a historic cuisine of France. The sauces were created back in the medieval times because they did not have refrigeration. So if they served quail or duck for dinner, they really had no place to store it. So when they served it the next day, the meat was a little rancid and not very good. So they covered up the taste with sauces. So that's why they became very famous for their sauces.
Yes.
So anyway,
And the other photos here are ratatouille and crepes. And with that steak and frites, I had never had that until we went. And oh my gosh, I don't know if you guys can see that picture down there, but that is a big pat of butter. And so that's how they generally
garlic butter.
Yeah, garlic butter. They serve it with a big pat of garlic butter, and oh, it is to die for. And another thing that we had there that we didn't show a picture of, the dinner that we had with the seafood and the frites. It was the mussels.
Oh, they did. Well, yeah. In Paris also, they do the moule, which is your mussels. They're very, very famous for their raw oysters and mussels. So you can get mussels in a sauce, and they serve that with French fries. But what Jamie and I like to do is we usually, from morning till the evening, we're in a go mode. Usually we start our excursions at 6 in the morning, and we don't end until probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So we are on the go. And so what we typically do, also in a way to save a little bit of money, is we get up, we go, and then we stop at a local market. And in Paris, they have large supermarkets like in the United States, and they also have small markets, but they have a lot of delis where you can buy baguettes, which are, of course, your big breads, your big French breads. You can buy very, very cheap baguette for €2. And then you could split that, and you can buy some meat, some delis. You can buy some cheeses, which we call fromage. Your meats are your charcutes. And then you buy your pastry, and then you basically make your own sandwich as you go. And then we always bought a bottle of wine, of course, a local bottle of wine, and some fruit. And then when we were on the go, we always stopped at some local park and some romantic spot, and we had our on-the-go picnic. So keep in mind, that's a great way for people to save money, save your big bucks for the big, delicious dinner.
And I have to add something here. So I never realized this until we went to France, and those of you that have been have seen this. The women, they walk around with high heels and a baguette under their arm. Like, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And so I had to put that photo of that girl carrying those baguettes, because it's a very common thing in France, especially in Paris, to see women, just walking around with them under their arm, like in their or in their handbag, like there's a lot of them just walking around with bread in their hand because it's such a staple item for them.
Well, and what I want to mention is that the funny thing about that is that you see the girl has 2 baguettes under her arm. Well, the reason for that is because she eats one while she's on her way home. So when she gets home, she has the one, but she's already eaten the other one. That's typical.
Oh my gosh.
So, the typical places that you're going to send your clients are what you want to ask them is what is it that you want to do? Do you want to go to museums? Do you want to go to other places? But if they're going to choose museums, these are the 3, I would say, most recommended museums to visit. The Louvre, of course, is the largest museum in the world. The Orsay is an old train station that was built in the late 1800s and converted recently within the past 20 years into a museum. It's a fine art museum, so that's where they're going to have Van Goghs, Vermeers, Picassos. Whereas the Louvre is going to have more of your old antiquities. It's going to have Roman. It's going to have Egyptian. It's going to have your most expensive and most famous picture of all time, your Mona Lisa, which was painted by Leonardo da Vinci. You're going to have your Jean-Louis David, which is my favorite French artist. You're going to have he painted the coronation of Napoleon. So you're going to find more of an eclectic mixture of art that was from around the world in the Louvre. And then you're going to have the Trocadero, which is also fine art as well. And it's right outside of the Eiffel Tower.
And I have to tell you a funny story about when we went to the Louvre. So we went to the Louvre and, had a wonderful day there. And of course, our goal was to get to the Mona Lisa. So we finally get there, and there's this large crowd around her. And, you have to kind of wait your turn to get up there.
If
And-
you've never seen the Mona Lisa, you'd be surprised. The Mona Lisa is only an 11 by 14.
Yeah, tiny. And so I had no idea. So we get up there, we're finally there, and we're professional photographers. So Steve has a professional camera and he's photographing the Mona Lisa. And all of a sudden he feels something on his head and he thinks it's like me. He like hit him on the head. He's like, what are you doing? And there was an Asian tourist that was behind him that literally put his long lens on top of Steve's head and used Steve's head as a tripod to photograph the Mona Lisa. That was one of the funniest things that happened on our honeymoon.
If your clients are interested in churches, I love churches. I love the European architecture. You have the Notre Dame, which is on the lower left-hand corner. Beautiful church. It actually burned down a couple of years ago, part of it. I believe they're at the end of reconstruction right now. So I believe you can now go into Notre Dame. Beautiful, beautiful church. Sacré-Cœur, which is Sacred Heart, lower right-hand corner. That's on top of a hill in the 8th arrondissement, which is the Montmartre district. Beautiful, beautiful church. In the upper left-hand corner is a very famous church called the Saint Etienne. That was built in the 1100s. And of course, on the upper right-hand corner is Sainte-Chapelle, known for its stained glass windows and ornate gold fixtures. So and these are just a few of the magnificent churches that you can recommend to your clients around the city.
And I want to add about Sacré-Cœur. That's the bottom right one that you see with the beautiful clouds and the blue sky behind it. We spent a lot of time there because it was close to where we were staying and we loved that lawn there. We actually went and had a picnic there. And then right above that, where it kind of looks like a bridge in front of the church, that's another level up there that's got like a really nice staircase. And there was a lot of street artists that were performing there every day. So we got to go and listen to people play guitar, people, doing all kinds of cool acrobatic stuff. There was always some kind of a food truck around there. And that is actually the highest point in Paris.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah. And so we were able to go up there and photograph the city down below. And it was just unbelievable, the view from there. And when I told you that we were there for the White Night, the Nuit Blanche, that is where we spent the majority of the evening, was there looking at artists and art installations and eating the food and enjoying the view. And they had fireworks that were going, and that was our last night. It was really magical and a great place to spend time. So if your clients are just looking for a place to kick back during the day, that was a really nice place to hang out. And isn't that where we could take that underground tour of the Roman ruins?
No, that's Notre Dame.
Oh, okay. That was in Notre Dame. All right, let's talk about shopping, girls and guys. There's a lot of guys that like to shop too. All right, so Paris is known for some of the best shopping in the entire world. And they've got every store that is a name brand that you've heard of. We just saw Mr. Donald Bradley giving away some Louis Vuitton bags at our Planet Marketing Convention that we had in Orlando, Florida. That was amazing. He gave away some huge bags there. There was a drawing for that. And the Louis Vuitton store is here. And there is this Galeries Lafayette that you see in the middle. That's also what you see in the bottom center next to the girl that's by the Eiffel Tower. That is a store that's got all those, a mall that's got all of these brands in there, and you can just shop to your heart's desire. And there's also a wonderful street. It's called the Champs-Élysées. And that street is absolutely beautiful. It's like Rodeo Drive, but bigger and grander. And at the end of the street, you see the Arc de Triomphe. It is just, there's all these little cafes that you can just stop and sit and eat. It's almost like that scene of Pretty Woman when she's walking down the street with all her bags. Like, you see people with big French poodles, and people are walking, men are walking, and they're dressed in suit and ties and hats. And it was just amazing. It was just like out of a movie. I loved it there. So if your clients are looking for great shopping, here is
or if your clients just want to kick back and they like to people watch, you direct them to the Champs-Élysées. You have them go sit down in one of the cafes right there on the sidewalk, and they can people watch all day. You see people from all over the world walking by. So it's a great place just to people watch.
All right, and here's some entertainment, and I'll let you talk about the entertainment.
There's lots to do in Paris, as you probably know. If people are interested, if they want to do some entertainment, you could always send them to the Moulin Rouge, which is where the Can-Can dancers perform. That's where a lot of the art from Toulouse-Lautrec, he drew a lot of the Can-Can girls from that era. Beautiful, beautiful place. Or you could send them to the Champs-Elysees, where they can go to the Lido, which is a cabaret shows. They're a little bit more exotic, but they're amazing. Or you could just send them to a place to kick back, which is at a local cafe, or what they call a tabac. Tabac is short for tobacco, because they have all of your cigarettes, your cigars, your pipes. And this is where a lot of the live music, where jazz bands will play, and you just basically kick back, get a beer, get a glass of wine, enjoy the music, enjoy the ambiance. And of course, if they want to do something a little bit more sophisticated, you can send them to the opera. Let me tell you something about the opera. That's the picture that's at the bottom center of the screen here. Of all the buildings in Paris, this is the most ornate interior of any building in Paris. You wouldn't think of that, but this is the opera, Phantom of the Opera, right? You would not believe the frescoes that are on the ceilings, the gold ornate crown molding, the chandeliers, just the stone architecture, the carvings on the marble. It is just going and touring the inside of the opera house is amazing.
Yeah, we walked in there and we went, whoa, like this is crazy. It just a beautiful, beautiful thing to experience.
We're getting towards the end here, folks. But of course, your clients may say, I want to do just the tourist attractions. I want to go to the Arc de Triomphe, which is what they call the Étoile in France. It's the center picture that you see there. It's the top view. They call it the Étoile, which means the star. Okay, because you see the different avenues that are emanating from the center of the Arc de Triomphe. The Arc of Triumph was built by Napoleon. It's where he marched his armies after every victory. So on the inside of the Arc de Triomphe are all of his different war campaigns that he fought, what years he fought them. And then on the other side are all of his generals that won these specific battles. So as I mentioned, those big streets, those big avenues, the Champs-Elysees is one of those avenues. It goes from the Arc de Triomphe all the way down to Place de la Concorde, which is near the Louvre. It's probably maybe 2 miles long. Beautiful, beautiful. Maybe they want to go to Place de la Concorde, which is on the far right-hand side with the fountain. That's famous. That place is very famous because that's where, at the end of the French Revolution, where they set up the guillotine and they beheaded all of the royal families. That's where the last king of France, Louis the 16th, and his beautiful wife Marie Antoinette were beheaded, and that was back in 1792, which was the last king of France. So that's at the Place de la Concorde. On the upper left-hand corner is Place de Bastille, which is where the French Revolution began. That's why it's important. That is a monument of where an old fortress, tower, prison was. That's where all the political prisoners and all the criminals were kept in the Bastille. And that's when the French Revolution started, because they burned down the Bastille, they tore it down, and they ran over it, and that's where it all began. And of course, you have your Eiffel Tower, which, those are your main places that you would want to send your clients. And when we go places, we like to immerse ourselves in the real culture of the place, right? So these are places, if you have clients that are really adventurous and they maybe don't want to go see the touristy things, or maybe they've already been to Paris and they've seen the Arc de Triomphe. They've seen the Eiffel Tower. They want something a little. This is maybe one thing that can entice them. Look at, there's other things to see. You could go to the underground catacombs, which is basically when they rebuilt Paris. They tore up all of the old graves and they buried them underground into what they call the modern day catacombs. So all the bones and skulls that are in there are all bones and skulls that were taken from cemeteries that were above ground, someplace in the old Paris. You can take them to this very, very interesting cemetery called Père Lachaise, where they have all of the above ground mausoleums. Even our own Jim Morrison from The Doors has his own mausoleum there. Oscar Wilde, just a lot of Edith Piaf, a lot of famous people. The only people that can be buried in Père Lachaise are what they call poets, literates, actors and actresses, and philosophers, and just those types of people. Send them to a farmer's market, great fresh produce. Send them to the old Paris flea market. You can just, there's so much you can buy, from little trinkets to huge chandeliers. If they want to get a little bit more adventurous, send them to Pigalle. Pigalle in the far right-hand lower corner is what they call the red light district. You got to go there. That place is just a fun place. And then, of course, there's the Latin Quarter, which we talked about. And there's a little bit more, if they want to spend more time in nature, they can go to the Bois de Boulogne. There's actually, I believe, 9 major parks in Paris. The Bois de Boulogne is one of them. You can rent a rowboat. You can row around the lake. You can sit. You can have picnic. It's a very romantic place to visit.
And I have to add that Steve told me that when his grandmother went to France, she wanted to go to the red light district, and they thought that was the funniest thing. She's like, put me in the car and drive me by there. I want to see it. And I just thought that was hilarious.
One of the other great spots, as we talked about it earlier, was the Latin Quarter. The Latin Quarter, what's great about the Latin Quarter is that it's a bohemian place. It's where the University of Sorbonne is, which is the largest university in France. So it's a big student area, and it's a very safe area. There's a lot of pubs. There's nightclubs. Everybody walks around there or rides their bicycle around the area. The Shakespeare library is there, so you go into the bookstore. It's a very famous bookstore where Ernest Hemingway used to hang out. The Latin Quarter is just the fun place. The one place that I like about the Latin Quarter is the fact that they have a lot of different ethnic foods there. So you can get Greek food, you can get Chinese food, you can get Vietnamese food, Mexican, Spanish, all Ethiopian food. Just if you're into that eclectic type of atmosphere, send your people to the Latin Quarter.
And they have big beers.
and of course, if there's other attractions that are outside of the outskirts of Paris. And these are all one-day trips that I would just really, really highly recommend. That, 37 minutes away from Paris is Euro Disney. An hour and a half is the Palace of Versailles, which is where Louis XIII all the way up to Louis XVI lived. I mean, this is just this you've seen the movie Marie Antoinette, and maybe you saw the series on Netflix on Versailles. This is a must. You have to go there. 2 hours away, you go north up to Normandy. This is where the D-Day beaches were. This is where Sword, Utah, Omaha. These are the landing beaches of D-Day. That's a must to go see. If you go south of Paris, 3.5 hours away is the Loire Valley. That is our favorite. That's where all the royal chateaus were located. I'm talking about, if you're interested in chateaus, those are castles. Castles were not homes of the kings. They were hunting lodges. This is where they would come out of Paris. They would go to the Loire Valley, go to their 60,000 square foot chateau in the Loire Valley to spend a weekend hunting. And then they would take all their people, their whole court, they would take them and travel with them to another chateau. So in the Loire Valley, there's probably over 50 different chateaus, and it's also known as the wine country. But also 5 hours away, going a little bit north of Paris, is also a beautiful area called Brittany, and that's on the northern coast of France. Our favorite place is a place called Mont Saint Michel, which is in the upper right hand corner. It is an island that is they call a tidal island, which is at night the tide comes in, so it surrounds the island, and then during the day the tide goes out, so then you can actually have access to this place, and we'll talk a little bit about it more.
Okay, and Steve kind of already gave you the history of Versailles, but I just wanted to show you some pictures of Versailles. I wanted to show you that you can book this on Viator. This is 43 minutes south of Paris, and beautiful grounds there. The upper right-hand corner, that is actually a huge waterway that was built by the king. And we actually rented a boat, and Steve rowed me in the boat, and we went out there. We had a picnic here on the grounds. On the left-hand side, you can see there's trees and there's grass. That's all public area. You can go and have a picnic there. That's the same thing you see in this photo in the center, where you see the sculpture of the horses and that and then that big lawn there. There's a lot of beautiful green areas, great places to take photos, beautiful gardens. The famous Hall of Mirrors, of course, is there. And you guys can book your clients to do this excursion. This is easily accessible from Paris. This is easily done in a half-day tour. And those tours run around $101 per person, and that's from Viator. And then touring the outskirts of Paris. So Steve mentioned that some of those things that he just talked about, like the Normandy landing beaches and going to Brittany and going to Mont Saint Michel. So those are a little bit harder for your clients to visit, just if they're staying in Paris and if they just want to go do a day trip. To me, they're a little bit harder because they are a little bit further out. It's not that you can't do it, but it's a little more difficult to do. So what we decided to do was rent a car. And so we do recommend, if you're going to rent a car, there are a couple of things. I would definitely download Google Maps for the area where you're going to be traveling on your phone before you go. And one of our alarms went off somewhere.
Yeah.
And so download Google Maps on your phone, because what happened to us was we got out of range and we didn't know it, and we couldn't access Google Maps on our phone because it was like we could only do it by satellite. And so we had a big issue, and we had found out later if we had downloaded it on our phone, we wouldn't have had that issue. So that's one thing. Make sure you've got the kind of chargers that you need for cars, because they may not have a USB port in the car. It might be a cigarette lighter. So, have that kind of a car charger. We were in the car for hours and our battery was running low and we didn't have a charger. So just think about those things when your clients want to drive, if they want to rent a car. It is easy driving here. You drive on the same side of the road that, we drive on in the States. One thing that's fun there is the roundabouts. So you go into a roundabout and you're going around in circles until okay, this is the way we go. And that's just what we did. Sometimes we go around 4 or 5 times and we're like, okay, exit stage right, we got this. Gas is running, I looked today, I think it's around $5.50 a gallon. It's $2 American per liter right now. And the other way you can travel is by train. So if you want to go to these places by train and you don't want to rent a car, you can do that. There are ways to do this.
All of these places are accessible with shuttles. So they have shuttles and tours that take people to all of these areas.
And then I'm going to let you talk about the landing beaches.
Okay, we're almost done here, folks. So just hang here just a little bit more. Again, these are excursions that are outside of Paris that I believe are just musts. I mean, if Normandy, which is basically 3 hours away from Paris, it's where the invasion on June 6, 1944 took place. It's where the Allied forces landed. It's where the Americans, Canadians, and British soldiers basically retook France from the Germans. They have the beaches that they landed on, which are Sword, Juno, Gold, Omaha, and the Utah Beach. These were all the fighting areas, and historically, you just got to keep in mind that over 4,000 Allied troops were killed, 5,000 wounded on these beaches, And not far from there is the Battle of Normandy, where 73,000 Allied forces were killed. This is a must that you've got to see. This is history.
And what I didn't realize until we went here is what a huge role the Canadians played in this, landing on these beaches and really, freeing the people on those final days. And it was just great to go here and see the history. And it was definitely a moving experience. All right. And the Loire Valley, oh my gosh, just absolutely beautiful. I have to tell you, though, we spent almost a week in this region. So we drove, we stayed in chateaus, we visited castles every single day, which Steve told you were royal hunting lodges. I saw some of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life. This was a dream come true for me, to talk about a modern day fairy tale, to be able to walk into these places. But by the time I had toured all of these castles, on the very, very last day, we got to the last castle, which is the castle you see in the center right there. And I looked at Steve and I said, now I can see why they got their heads chopped off, because there was just so much opulence. And to me, you think about the peasants and the people that were living, that were working for, these huge monarchies. And it was just, to me, I mean, I know it's part of our history, and I love that I got to see it, and the opulence and the paintings and the tapestries and all of it was just, amazing. But in the end, I literally didn't even want to walk in the last castle because of, just thinking of the history of it. And so, but it's something you got to experience in your lifetime. And it really was a treat to go here and see this. We also went to the home on the bottom left side is Clos-et-Lucé.
Clos-et-Lucé.
Clos-et-Lucé, and that's Leonardo da Vinci's last residence. And what I loved about this trip was when we went to go see the castle in Amboise, the king in Amboise, he loved Leonardo da Vinci. And so he actually built a private tunnel that went from the castle all the way through the village. And this castle was up on a hill. It was really cool. It was almost,
that's right here.
It's on the far okay. It's on the far right hand side underneath the map. So it sits up pretty high on a hill. So on the back side of it, you see like the whole village down below. And Leonardo da Vinci's house, you can see it in the distance, and it's kind of far. But he built an underground tunnel so that he could go visit him in secret, because he was just so fascinated with all of his inventions and his knowledge and his brain, and he loved spending time with him. And so he built this beautiful place for him to live. And this is actually where Leonardo died, and that was his bedroom right there. And so that was a great place to visit.
It's now a Leonardo.
Leo DiNardo. We'll just call him Leo.
It's now it's now a museum.
Yes, it is.
And not Leonardo DiCaprio.
All right. And we are at the end, you guys. Okay. So this is our last place we want to share with you. This is Mont Saint Michel, which Steve mentioned to you. And he had told me stories about this place before we got to go visit it. And the cool thing about this place is that it is an island. And as he told you, like the tide goes out and then it comes in, it surrounds the island. And if you're there when the tide comes in, that's it. You're there. You're stuck there. You got to stay there. It was one of the most magical places I've ever been in my life. There's some Benedictine monks that live there. When we were there, there was a concert going on. And the monks, it's like, those old songs that you hear, that chanting and just this like amazing, beautiful, angelic music. And we climbed up like stairs and stairs and stairs and stairs to get to the top of that, that monastery to hear these monks. And oh my gosh, just incredible. The bell tolling, these little cobblestone streets. And because we were sort of like locked in on this island and we couldn't get off of it, we made it a goal. This was at the end of our honeymoon. We made it a goal to visit as many pubs as we could while we were there. We did like a pub crawl, and the food was amazing. And they make these omelets that you see down here on the bottom. So they're kind of famous for this. If you Google it, they beat the omelets in in these big vats, and they do it with these big whisks, and they have big copper bowls, and they make music. Like it's like, and they beat the eggs for a long time until they're super fluffy. And then they bake them over this open fire. And The smell, the taste, everything. This was just such a magical place to end our honeymoon. I'm going to get teary-eyed.
They only have,
we
I
loved
believe
it.
they only have 3 hotels on this island. We stayed in one of them. It was called La Mer de Poulard, which is on the bottom. I would highly recommend that you put one of your clients in this little hotel. It's so quaint. The views are just magical. It's just a great place to spend, a weekend or at least 2 full days on this island.
All right.
Boy, we look young there.
This tells you how long ago our honeymoon was, right? Okay, and you're
Okay, folks. Au revoir and merci beaucoup for your patience. We had a great time reliving the past, but hey, we're gonna go back, and I highly recommend that you send your clients there. And if you do, and if you need any advice or you want to ask some questions, feel free to give us a call. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
all right. We're
Wow,
done.
wow. Thank you so much. That was so
so great.
fascinating. We had a lot of great comments that people were just eating this up.
Oh my
I know.
gosh, we didn't know what time it was, you guys. We're so sorry.
That's okay.
We
That's
didn't have a
okay.
clock in front of us.
I
Can you
told
hear
her
me
we should have
okay?
been drinking wine or champagne or something.
Oh my gosh. I
So,
hope you guys are drinking
so
wine because we didn't mean to keep you that long. Sorry about that.
that's okay. We enjoyed it. Can you
Okay,
hear me
good.
okay?
Thank
Because
you.
I'm kind of breaking up here, I think, right at the end. But
We can hear
wow.
you.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. That was amazing. I didn't want it to quit, even though it was long. I didn't want it to quit. So I didn't know how much I wanted to go to Paris. It definitely moved up on my bucket list. And I know who I want as my travel agents for sure, the both of you. So thank you so much. And we're going to go
You're
ahead
very
and
welcome.
sign off. Like they said, if you have questions, feel free to contact them. But again, thank you so much for amazing presentation.
All right,
All
you
right.
guys. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
hanging out. Sorry
Yeah,
to keep you
guys.
so
Sorry
long.
about that.
Everybody have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, take care.
All right, and we'll see you
Good
in
night,
Paris.
everyone.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you.
Thanks, Joy.
Oh my
Thank
gosh,
you.
Joy, I didn't know what time it was.
Everybody was hanging in there. They loved it. So
All right, well, that's cool. We like it. I had my phone in front of me so I could check the time, and then Steve at some point picked it up and moved it, and then I was like, I can't reach my phone, so I can't check the time. But yeah, I guess we were just too busy reliving our honeymoon, right? We got all
Right.
caught up in it.
So yeah, I
That
don't
was
blame
really good, Jane.
Thank you guys. Thanks for being there. We appreciate it.
Yeah, have
All
a
right,
good
All
thank
night.
right.
you.
And reach out with any questions if anybody has